as the primal urge takes over under a full moon night. The ancient curse of the werewolf pierces through the jungle in a howl of pain. Countless films using the trope of lycanthropy have flooded the industry, and yet the torment that each character experiences is far from ordinary. There exists a whole new world of B-graded werewolf flicks, which are some of the most underrated gems in this subgenre. Cocky and campy, these films have managed to earn their place as cult classics, in spite of budgetary constraints. So brace yourself as we dive into this insane realm of horror, passion, thrill, and action, where every thread of sanity seems to tear apart. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Thank you. Let's begin. 10. Bad Moon, 1996. Ted returns home as the lone survivor amongst a group of researchers who have been attacked by a savage beast in the wild. His sister Janet invites him to stay over at her place. Since he has lost his girlfriend on the journey, he could just drive his trailer to her property and they would chill with Janet and her son Brett. Sounds like a good plan. Soon, he sees a number of corpses lying near his trailer. This leaves the police baffled, as they suspect this to be a case of brutal animal attack. Anyway, Ted accepts the invitation and is happily welcomed by his nephew, but their dog Thor turns aggressive at the guy, as if he were something that the dog intensely despises. As days pass, Janet begins to suspect that her brother might be an actual werewolf, responsible for all the killings around him. Terrified that her family is in danger, what will Janet do? Can she save them from this horror, or will she have to pay a price? I think they did a great job in adapting the novel Thor by Wayne Smith. What more do you need when you have a German Shepherd playing the main character and fighting off a paranormal shapeshifter? Then there's Ted, a troubled man who hopes that love will cure him, or at least help him tame the beast within. Moreover, the cast is decent and the landscapes are very picturesque. If you're an old school like me, the puppet type transformation of the beast is sure to catch your eye. In spite of many people disliking the pace of the plot, I think it is a great popcorn film that relies not on jump scare horror, but on the latent fear of a family plagued by a curse. A little more work on all fronts would have made the film an all-time horror classic, instead of the cult classic that it already is. 9. Werewolf, 1996. An archaeological expedition turns wrong when a group of scientists at a quarry in Arizona come across the mysterious remains of a creature. While they are puzzled, the natives instantly recognize it as the skeleton of a werewolf. Without much ado, the team then transports their finding to the lab in order to inspect them further. One of the team members, Natalie, simply cannot contain her excitement. Now, one of the dig assistants at the quarry had been injured by the remains, which eventually grew into an infection. The hospital personnel stared in shock and awe as they watched a human grow into a full-fledged lycanthrope. With a deadly combination of ambition and being completely nuts, Yuri decides to conduct an experiment of infecting other people in town, just to see if they too transform into werewolves. Yuri even infects Paul, who comes to the lab to help them analyze the sample. As a week-long full moon triggers cataclysmic transformations, can the fascinated Natalie save them all? This is one of those movies that would be telecast at 2 a.m. when the viewer is hardly watching the film. So if you avoid the absurd production errors that the film is criticized for, the director beautifully captures how a pretty autumn city turns into a horror fest in the dead of the night. The storm raging outside is a reflection of the opposite sides of nature, which extends to human nature as well. Paul and Natalie share great chemistry, and the on-screen presence of Joe Estevez redeems all grievances you may hold. An alternate version of this film was released as Arizona Werewolf, and it included a lengthy sex scene between Natalie and Paul. 8. Blood and Chocolate, 2007. Ever since Vivian lost her parents 10 years ago in the Rocky Mountains, Colorado, she has been living with her aunt in Bucharest, Romania. But Vivian is no ordinary kid. She hails from a noble bloodline of ancient werewolves, and her hand has been promised in marriage to Gabriel, the leader of the pack. Things were getting pretty fine until the arrival of an American cartoonist named 8. Little did he know that he would immediately fall in love with the beautiful Vivian, where he went there to research werewolves for the upcoming edition of his magazine. The pack is rife with internal conflict, Alex. Naturally, Gabriel's evil son and Vivian's cousin Rafe spares no opportunity to tell Gabriel about his new development in Vivian's love life, as Vivian is forced to choose between her passion for Aiden and her fealty to her pack. What does fate have in store for each of them? First of all, I absolutely love the title for finally breaking the ground rules of werewolf horror. Secondly, for a modestly budgeted PG-13 film, the film does justice to the gorgeous landscapes, the sensual soundtrack, and absolutely stunning actors in almost every role. Now, who doesn't want to watch two men fighting for a hot werewolf girl? If you want torn flesh and mangled corpses, this isn't the one for you. Instead, there's madness, passion, and seduction, which is the film's main USP, other than a bunch of shirtless werewolf men roaming around you. 7. Werewolf Castle, 2021. When an entire village is destroyed due to a werewolf invasion, a young boy named Thorfinn decides to accompany a group of knights working as mercenaries. They venture out on this dangerous quest to finish off the evil menace plaguing the countryside. There's gruesome fighting, passionate vengeance, and a sense of trying to find home when you're feeling like an outcast. Everything about this film looks perfect to me. The medieval setting, the rusty attire, the odd set of circumstances, and the sheer cinematography stand out brilliantly. It was a very 13th Warrior feel in some ways. The killing scenes are just mind-blowing, filled with absolute gore. Some of the shots are a bit dark, but any scene where they have meat is awfully exciting. I think the cabin scene sets the stage for the ending to be this fun. What happens to the protagonist in the end is surely to bring a smile to your face, making it a stunning B-grade werewolf film from recent times. 6. Female Werewolf, 2015. As a feverish state of sexual delirium takes over a woman's better judgment, she begins to question her humanity. Is she truly turning into a monster, or is it all in her mind? After a day of working mechanically in the office, she comes home to fantasize about a fellow colleague. Blood, sex, and death take over her dreams, and she wakes up with fangs to find herself in a different place. I was just as confused as Carrie Gimmel about what was happening. Was she just hallucinating, or is it supernatural horror? Is this a fetish film for lycanthropy, or lesbianism, or both? In spite of the slow burn, the film is replete with symbols and metaphors. Throughout the film, I kept feeling that this was probably one of those artsy films, but I was right. Turns out, Chris Alexander has got a taste for surreal quasi-feminist indie horror.
No. Thanks to you.
5. Never Cry Werewolf, 2008. Moving in can be both exciting and a bit of a trouble, and Jared Martin is no exception. While the neighborhood is otherwise friendly, Lauren Hansard, living next door, doesn't really appreciate the bad vibes that her new neighbor brings in. Thus, she begins to secretly spy on Jared and finds his shady nighttime activities to be sus. As she sinks further down the internet rabbit hole, she is convinced that Jared might be a werewolf involved in a recent case of homicide. But who's gonna believe her? Her friend Steven isn't convinced and calls it a teenage fantasy. They go to a gun shop to buy silver bullets, but there they are attacked by Jared's supernatural dog, which catches the attention of Red Tucker, who has some experience in hunting. Then, the werewolf attacks Steven and Lauren's own brother goes missing. So now, it is up to Red and Lauren to team up and kill the beast before it can butcher them. This film was first aired on Sci-Fi Channel back in 2008, and you can't help but notice how it is a blatant copy of Friday Night. Take, for example, that part where Jared brings home a girl, takes her upstairs, and the lights go off after the woman screams. If director Brenton Spencer was to literally copy the scenes, he could have just saved himself all that trouble and remade Friday Night instead. If you can look past that, it is still a fun watch if you want to spend a lazy evening watching an average, low-budget werewolf film. As an added bonus, you have the eye candy, Nina Dobrev, to keep you hooked, all the way from the movie poster till the very end. 4. Late Phases, 2014. What secret is a secluded little retirement community hiding? Why are its residents dying not from old age, but from dog attacks? When the war veteran Ambrose McKinley moves to this old age home, a brutal canine attack one night makes him wonder if these are really just dogs or something more sinister. While nobody believes him, he cannot just sit there and do nothing. Although well armed and good with booby traps, he is blind as a bat and wears a hearing aid. Ambrose must use his military training to stop this evil beast from claiming more lives. Monster movie aficionados, gather round, because this film breaks away from the conventions of the werewolf genre and brings in a fresh take, originally titled Late Phases. It was later renamed as Night of the Wolf. While it does look like another low-budget crappy werewolf flick, I was actually pleasantly surprised to be proven wrong. The fact that the cast features mostly an elderly ensemble makes you actually care about the grizzly grandpa and his story. It's a genuinely good movie if you can pay attention without expecting anything at all. 3. Werewolf Fever, 2009. When the bad-tempered boss at the King Burger drive-in leaves his late-shift employees to wait for Donnie the delivery driver, little do they know that terror is on the menu tonight. After being attacked by an unknown animal in the woods on a deserted road, Donnie turns into a werewolf. As the moon shines full and bright in the sky, Donnie, filled with vengeance, brings darkness to the fast food center. Fun fact, the King Burger Drive-In is an actual restaurant in Renfrew, Ontario, and looking at the Google reviews, it seems pretty decent. Even if you're not a die-hard lycanthropy lover, this film can hardly disappoint you. There's babes, brawn, and burgers against fangs, fur, and fever. The 66 suspenseful, gore-filled, blood-curdling moments are definitely worth a watch. Some may say that it is an all-bark and no-bite kind of movie, but it has a very unique horror and black humor that keeps the entertainment piping hot. 2. Big Bad Wolf, 2006. When a group goes to Cameroon on a hunting expedition, a wild animal attacks them. While Charlie Cowley survives the ordeal, he loses his brother Scott. 7 years have passed since this tragedy, and now his nephew Derek Cowley is just a teen who steals the keys of his stepfather's cabin in the deserted Fire Road 13. With his friend Sam and 4 of his classmates, Derek plans to go on a bender in the cabin. After a weekend filled with booze and sex, the rendezvous comes to a horrifying end when a savage beast attacks the group, leaving Sam and Derek as the only survivors. Now they suspect that his stepfather, Mitchell Toblet, may be cursed with lycanthropy. With the help of Charlie, they plan to gather evidence in support of their theory, but Mitchell finds out that they plan to kill him, and now he's not going to spare either of them. Once you know that this is a B-graded movie, and you don't expect it to be perfect, the film begins to grow on you. Yes, they didn't spend much on the werewolf costume, but it has a charm of its own. Richard Tyson plays one hell of a werewolf, and it's actually hilarious how he stands on 2 feet instead of all 4s and talks like a human. Also, spoiler alert, after the end credits, the supposedly dead beast moves his fingers. There's sufficient gore, a bit of nudity as well. The transformation looks straight out of 80s cartoons, and yet it's a film that keeps you hooked. I can't remember the last time they showed a disgusting little rapist werewolf on screen. While we do not condone violation, we would 10 out of 10 recommend the film. 1. Skin Crawlers, 2006. Timothy is about to turn 13, and little does he know that he is cursed by an ancient prophecy. He is a half-blood, and the destiny of his family lies in his hands. As the moon signals the approaching of his transformation, 2 rival packs of werewolves plan to hunt him down. Timothy has been raised by his mother, Rachel, and his family consists of his grandmother, his uncle Jonas, his cousin Catherine, and her boyfriend Adam. But here's the catch. The mother-son duo is completely unaware that they are surrounded by a group of well-wishing werewolves who have been protecting Timothy all this while. Timothy's immense power is a ticking time bomb for the werewolf community, so they plan to finish him off. Skinwalkers is one of those top-notch werewolf flicks out there. Normally, films in this genre do not have much going on for the first 45 minutes at least. It is only towards the end that you finally get a complete glimpse of the beast. The opening sequence of Skinwalkers begins head-on, showing 2 rival groups of werewolves who are about to tear at each other's flesh. Half a dozen shots are fired, and the adrenaline is constantly at peak. Stan Winston creates some spectacular special effects. Also, it's fascinating how Natasha, one of the werewolves, goes on to play a vampire the very next year. Anyway, a perfect combo of thrill and horror. This film is undoubtedly one of the best B-rated bloodlusts out there. Marvelous verdict. The myth of lycanthropy dates back to ancient times, and every civilization has tried to reinterpret this legend in its own right. An insane amount of production money has gone into creating this entire werewolf subgenre, where every year newer additions make it to the category. The sheer volume of lycanthropic films tells us that there is an ever-growing popularity of this ancient curse, especially amongst modern viewers. We want to see more fangs, more fur, and have more fun, watching newer plots and troubled characters in odd circumstances. Overall, this is one of those categories where variations of the same myth will leave you breathless. If you can watch these films without expecting them to be blockbusters, with superstars charging hefty amounts and insanely costly CGI, only then can you really appreciate them for the cinematic marvel they are. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.